This is a massive video that took months to put together, so I won't waste your time. On September 4th, 2018, the developer Bungie of the renowned Halo franchise and Destiny franchise released the largest DLC the game had ever seen, with the promise that Forsaken would deliver on every single fault the game had been accustomed to in its first year's release. The promise that the DLC would also offer a place called the Dreaming City, with the largest endgame experience ever, enticed all types of players to return to the game. But it wasn't just the large scale and realized endgame that excited the players of the game. It was instead what was mentioned in the Dreaming City trailer, shrouded in mystery and at the city's core, a massive raid that provoked everyone to sharpen a gaze and give attention to what the developer had in store. On September the 14th, a mere 10 days after the DLC's launch, gaming history was made.
So whoa!
Oh yeah!
All right, there we go. Just a guarantee.
Do it. Do the super thing.
Kill him!
Oh, yeah, baby!
Light on. Good.
Good shit, boys.
The door's open. Let's go. Wait.
9, 8, 7, 6,
Chest. Look for the chest. We're not done.
The Last Wish raid was officially beaten in 18 hours and 48 minutes by Clan Redeem.
My queen commanded me to slay a beast. We could not do it alone, so I turned to the Guardians. 6 brave heroes came to destroy my people's greatest secret. Riven, the last known Ahamkara, a creature of immense power and cunning. The Guardians killed Riven and ripped out her heart. But Ahamkara transcend death. They can transform desire into reality, even when they are nothing but bone and dust. I should have known that Riven would grant one last wish. One last curse. Now the Dreaming City has been taken. I opened the gates. I ordered the attack. I should have known.
The game of Destiny 2 was now in what can only be described as a constant cycle of a curse. The endgame destination, the Dreaming City, was now covered to the brim in the enemy race, the Taken's presence. New maps were unveiled for the Crucible, Gambit, and a brand new 3-player strike activity. Along with these came a new activity to the game called a dungeon for light raid mechanics and 3 players instead of 6. If everything I've talked about seems a little bit off topic for today's video, then you're just not paying attention. All of the places we have described and shots we have shown contain these symbols. For the sake of this video, I won't be naming all of these, especially since the names are all up to player interpretation. But just know there are 16 total and 4 of each icon. A dragon, a single or double fish, a bird, and 1 to 2 snakes. For contextual reasons, it's important to touch on the reason that the symbols exist. You see,
Riven, the last Ahamkara, assisted the Awoken in the creation of the Dreaming City. The construction of the Dreaming City presented many opportunities to feed on and manipulate wishes. However, Riven had not encountered someone like Mara Sov before. Mara Sov was aware of the cunningness of the Ahamkara and created the Wall of Wishes to communicate with Riven.
after Team Redeem had beaten the Last Wish raid, not only was the Dreaming City's aesthetic changed and activities added, but inside the raid itself, Players with a keen eye for lighting and vectors would notice some pretty glaring lights leading them up a rock path right before the first encounter of the then brand new raid. This wall, filled with 20 plates on a 5x4 space with one on the floor in the center. If shot, these panels would change into these symbols we listed before, rotating a symbol each time they were shot until returning to a blank state by either standing on the center plate or shooting past 16 of them. It was clear to the player base that this was some sort of code.
The Wall of Wishes used images rather than words to facilitate bargains, and in this way limited Riven's ability to manipulate wishes.
So, let's set the picture straight. The game's newest and baddest raid boss communicates with wishes to the player. Some sort of secret code or codes are involved with those wishes as indicated by the wish wall. And a game developer that loves secrets has just been given justification through its own narrative to make the hunt for those secrets game-changing. The raid may have been beaten, but the hunt had just begun. 14 wishes have been found to this day, but only one remains. One last wish. This is the unsolved mystery of Destiny 2's 15th wish.
You could be so much more. All you need to is wish it.
What a miserable fate for this beautiful place.
Marisol, we need answers, and your people need help. The curse has begun again.
My dreams are growing worse.
I would quite like to meet you.
I've waited so long to fulfill one last wish.
Disclaimer: most of these wishes can't be credited to one specific person's findings, but we did try our absolute best to preserve the correct information. Once the Wall of Wishes was revealed to the player base, you and I might have begun to think that is where the hunt began, but you and I would also be wrong. The Destiny player base is a split sector of many sub-communities. While some sub-communities may have been into cartography and some code breaking and data mining, others like to bend the game to their will. Sometimes when making a destination as big and beautiful as the Dreaming City, there can be a crack. On September the 8th, there was that crack, and the Destiny player base was able to maneuver to the raid earlier than the developer intended. This was mainly used to seek out the chest between the raid's first boss, Kali the Corrupted, and the raid's second boss, Shurochi the Corrupted. However, our first actual plate was found. Deep inside a cave and on the outskirts of the Shurochi encounter was the first wish found before the raid was even released. A mix of symbols with no place or meaning to deal with these yet. After the raid was beaten and the wall was revealed, this wish, wish number 4, when typed into the wall, jumped the player to the Shurochi encounter. A checkpoint skip like a classic video game cheat code. For the sake of clarity, if I name a wish to be the first found, that doesn't mean it's wish number 1. The game has numbered these wishes through triumphs, so we will base our numbers off of that. So even if a wish was found first, it will be labeled a different name. Sorry if there's any confusion there. The first wish was found, but I would go out on a limb and say that I don't think the player base understood at all what it meant. If you need any credit to this assumption, look at what this deleted Reddit account left in regards to finding one themselves. The user deleted the post, but using the comments of this thread, it's safe to assume that this was wish number 11, found on September 10th at 11:51 p.m. A whole 4 days before the raid had even launched. This wish, when entered, rang a familiar tune, but just like my channel, Bungie was afraid of DMCA, so they made it sound a little bit different. You may be wondering, why are these wishes that are featured in the Dreaming City now seemingly outside of the Dreaming City? At the time, nobody knew what the reason for this was, and that still remains to be true. The search hadn't really begun yet, but my guess as to why this wish was set out of nowhere was because of the exotic quest released with Forsaken about the beloved character Cayde 6's death, having the player search the Centaur Nessus. But your guess is honestly as good as mine. The raid may have begun, but in a way that the player base didn't quite understand still. The third wish was found. Reddit user CrazyMarty695 found wish number 8. This wish shares with wish 11 in the fact that I can only play a small bit of it for fear of my own DMCA, but know that when entered into the wall, the song Hope for the Future played in the raid. A nod to the song featured as promotion for Destiny 1 and featured multiple times across the series. From out of the ordinary and DMCA to in plain sight comes the third wish found, and I guess it can be credited to Team Redeem for finding it, since, well, it's been here all along. Did you miss it? Here it is again in slow motion, sitting upon this Titan's shield. Wish number 3. One that if typed in, would grant the whole raid team a special emblem for having a keen eye. Not one full day after the raid was cleared, Reddit user Dragonborn found the next wish. Right before the vault encounter, and atop this gazebo sat a lit up plate containing the 6th wish. This wish would take the player straight to the vault of the raid, and this wish was a very significant one for one core reason. If wish number 4 was proven to take the player to Shirochi, that meant that wish number 6 gave clear evidence that every encounter to the raid could have a checkpoint to skip to. One wish was not a skip, but an additive to the raid's already existing pool of secrets. Some lucky players who beat the raid may have noticed a certain key in their inventory. This was no mistake. This key, the glittering key, was only able to be used after Reddit user Reborn stumbled across it on the ceiling during the Queen's Walk encounter on Sunday, September 16th at 2:15 a.m. Pacific, only a day after the raid was cleared. When this wish, wish number 2, was entered, a chest appeared after the Morgoth boss fight and in between the vault encounter. This giant courtyard with doors that we will discuss later on the sides was now home to a chest only able to be opened by the glittering key. When opened, the player received a ship. That's it. This wish did set the precedent for the rest of Destiny's sub-communities to join the effort and push for finding all of the wishes. With now not only checkpoints in sight and little gimmicks, but rewards too. With no set number of wishes truly in sight, the community sprung for answers. The hunt may have begun before, but now it was truly on. At this point, I think you can sense a trend, but I included this wish since it was a unique reminder of how out of the way and random these secrets tend to be. Reddit user Lunar found our next wish, wish number 5, or the 7th one if you've been keeping track.
I found another plate hidden in the raid. It's after the second boss and in the Taken Realm right before crossing the bridge onto the third ogre boss. I went through the Taken portal and turned around before crossing the bridge jumping puzzle and on the left side, there's a ledge you can jump down on. Slightly below the ledge, and on the side of the bridge, is this.
I think you have a pretty good guess as to where this wish takes you. Exactly 1 week after the Last Wish raid was beaten, Reddit user Giovanno found the next code.
Last night, during a leisurely clear of Last Wish, I figured I'd take a quick peek around Riven's jumping puzzle, as I had a sneaking suspicion that the sadists over at Bungie would have hidden a code there. Sure enough, there was one.
Found at the ending stages of the final boss, Riven's raid encounter, and behind 2 shielded enemies, posted along a wall in seemingly plain sight for those who chose to take the harder right path instead of left, sat wish number 7. A fun note when watching back the near 19-hour world's first clear is that the team probably saw this wish, but was too focused to care, and nobody knew what these plates were yet. So why would they care? This was yet another checkpoint skip straight to Riven of 1000 Voices, and quickly became the most used wish for any looking for Guardian services, since it meant a quick run to the final chest on repeated playthroughs. On September the 22nd at 1:58 a.m. Pacific time, Reddit user SpazAttack made a post titled, "I don't know if it's been found, but there's another wish on a plate on Titan." This was a major breakthrough in the hunt for the wishes. You need to remember, the Destiny player base at this time had no clue how many wishes were truly out there. So when SpazAttack found one not even close to the Dreaming City and instead on Titan, it meant that this search was really only beginning. The player base knew that there was a wish found before this on Nessus, but 2 outside of the Dreaming City told everyone to start digging everywhere. Entering this new wish granted the player the triumph, Wish 12. By entering this one in, everyone in the raid team had now been blessed with in-game Snapchat filters. No, I'm not joking, that's what this wish was truly. Another major breakthrough, finding a wish on Titan for sure, but this wasn't the glory that I'm sure players of the game were looking for. That glory would find a home soon, however. On September 25th, only 3 days after the 12th wish was found, so was the 14th. Reddit user Urkelstein found the 14th wish in none other than Marasov's throne world, also known as the dungeon, the Shattered Throne. As we have previously discussed, this dungeon was opened after the raid was beaten, and it was even a secret itself that it existed. It took the game's community a few days after the raid was beaten to stumble upon this wall. A topic we will cover for another video, I'm sure, but just know that this wish was only found after a combination of secret orbs were dunked. This would open a secret room needed for a, say it with me now, secret exotic quest in the, at the time, brand new dungeon, and within that secret room was a boss and our 14th wish. When entered into the wall, this wish spawned corrupted eggs to be in the Last Wish raid. Just like wish number 2, wish 14 was focused on adding to the raid instead of skipping portions. The corrupted eggs were already a part of the Forsaken Dreaming City's activities and were only able to be shot with the exotic weapon from the quest where the 14th wish was found. Using the bow, Wish Ender, these eggs were able to be taken down, and the player would be rewarded with weapons and armor from the DLC, as well as a neat sparrow for shooting all 40 eggs in the DLC. These weren't easy to find either. There was one hidden in the ceiling at the first encounter, behind the terrain in the second encounter, way off in the distance of the third, hidden underground in the same location as the glittering key chest, and hidden in a tiny sliver of the wall in the fourth encounter. Wish 14 was unique in the fact it was better optimized by skipping to each encounter using the previous wishes we have discussed. Say what you want about the developer Bungie, but it's secrets like these that lend to their great attention to detail. It's why players are still looking for wishes to this day, but we aren't done. Actually, we're only 2 hours in the future from Wish 14 being found, and on to Wish number 1. Found at 1:55 p.m. by Reddit user xVale. This one was also found inside of the Shattered Throne, but instead of a secret room, this one was found after the first boss room and against a rock on a wall. This wish was simple, and yet another additive Wish 1 granted an extra reward once per account to the end of the raid, another shot for players to earn the best loot in the entire game, and a huge benefit for those looking to make the raid even more special. Not all of these wishes are found within the hunt. Sometimes they just find a way to get to you. Reddit user Prologue had just that experience. Quote,
I honestly never thought I'd be one of the people to find something like this first, but I was just exploring a bit inside the raid with my Titan after choosing a free loot chest. I looked up to the ceiling in one of the rooms and I noticed 4 glowing lights. It was too dark to see anything that high on the ceiling. The only way I got the image was creatively using the muzzle flash impact light on my bullets while sniping, and I managed to get a low-quality long-range screenshot. Luckily enough, the code on the plate was simple enough to decipher despite the low-quality image that I captured.
Wish number 9 was now found. Atop the crossing between the second and third encounter wasn't just wish number 5, but also now wish number 9. Typing in this code was just another additive to the raid. Using this wish, Riven now took the tongue of failsafe.
Warning. Sensors are showing. I have a body? Captain, did you wish for me to have a body?
A character introduced in the game's release back in 2017. This one was either a net gain or a net loss to the experience depending on who you asked.
Having a body has been my life's goal for the past 895 days.
Another week went by, and just when things started to calm down, another wish was discovered by Reddit user Potatoes, in this post crediting Potatoes by Farah for mercy. They go on to explain how this wish was uncovered. Quote, the glyph found is underneath the blight in the chest room. There are only 24 chests in the room. We had 4 keys per player opening them all up. That caused the blight to go away. We think it went away after less than 24 chests but cannot confirm. Safely go in with 24 keys to find it yourself. This wish tested the players for a few reasons and is another great credit that I can give to the game's developer. The 13th wish came at the end of the raid and hidden behind the player's knowledge of the raid to give a true test of the knowledge once entered in. Once the wish was entered, this started the raid's greatest challenge, a challenge by the name of Petra's Run. Petra was the name of a character in the DLC, and the run made hungry players complete the raid without a single death from anyone on the team. So if one person were to die, everyone was sent out of the activity. The hype of this wish's discovery was so impactful that teams were out searching harder, now trying to loot as many activities as possible and hoping that there would be a change in the geometry. It wouldn't be for quite some time till the next wish was found, though. The next wish was found previously by a data miner named Ginzor, who knew which activity in the game to look in, but not where exactly to find it. He knew the wish as of October 21st when he made the post about the wish.
From what I can get from the data, it appears that the plate for Wish 10 must be somewhere on a Gambit map, as the file for the wish was in a package of Gambit. Also, there are other textures surrounded by the wish file, which are not typical for an EDZ map, which would lead to the Emerald's Coast. But please, don't get angry with me if it isn't there in the end. It's just what it strongly looks like in the data. As further evidence, I also recalculated the graphs for all other wishes, except for 3, the cutscene one. And they all appeared in the very package file where they were found. Dreaming City are only in the Dreaming City packages.
At this point, the data miner had found that there were only 15 wishes. That meant that 2 were still remaining, and Wish 10's plate wouldn't be located in the Emerald Coast after all. However, it would be featured in the game's brand new Gambit map, released after Team Redeem beat the raid. On the outskirts of the Cathedral of Scars and only visible to the player in overtime sat the 10th wish. The players knew where to look, but not how to fit the circumstances the wish required. Since it is Gambit, you may be able to guess what this did for the raid.
Hey! What the hell is this?
Is that you, brother? Oh, I see. You've made a friend you can wish to.
Ginzor made one other point in the 10th Wishes post. This one about Wish 15.
There was not a single file for Wish 3 and Wish 15. Since Wish 3 was found in the cutscene, I believe that Wish 15 also has to be found somewhere out of game or is still time-gated.
Wish 15, what was now assumed to be the final wish by the entire Destiny community, was still out there and ripe for the taking. On October 25th, 2018, Wish 10 was discovered by not-so-traditional means, using data mining to find a location. But just like the search for it, the parameters to actually find the wish were anything but traditional, requiring Destiny players to not only be on a specific Gambit map, but also to be in overtime meant that if Wish 10 had some very specific settings, then the places where Wish 15 could be found and the way it could be found were infinite. If the previous section focused on the story of Wish 1 through 14 and the context of Destiny 2's raid, Last Wish, then this next section will focus on the hunt for Wish 15. The game developer Bungie is no stranger to puzzles and secret code hunts for massive rewards. As we discussed in the last Unsolved Mysteries video, secrets are everywhere in the developer Bungie's games, especially secrets involving code. The last exit mystery with an impossible code requiring a key from Derek Carroll. The codes for Outbreak Prime. The puzzle for the DLC Warmind that ended with a real-life hunt. And many smaller puzzles up to this point. Bungie may place mystery in aspects of their game, but the community tends to look even further than the developer may have intended. Just like Ginzor had spoken about in his post, Wish number 3 was not ever found in the game files, but spotted instead in the post-raid cutscene. Wish 15, however, was not so fortunate. Many theories as to what and where Wish 15 was were starting to circulate. But how can one even guess what the wish could do without a place to look? Players searched every single location. In the raid, outside of the raid, the cutscenes of the game, the interviews, everything that could be seen by an eye was scanned. The player base's excitement to find the final wish was exceedingly high. A new post every day about where the 15th wish could be was made. From the Shattered Throne to the Black Armory trailers, the tower, old campaigns in the game, hell, even Cade 6's dead body, posts were popping up with tinfoil hats on and to no avail. You have to remember, this isn't restricted to a small space like the game's Crucible map Last Exit. This wish could be anywhere. New DLCs released and new places were searched. A very strong theory was that the wish could only appear in the character Mara Sov's throne room. After all, she was the one who made the Wall of Wishes and communicated with Riven through the wall, so you would have to guess that one last wish would be in this room. But how was one even supposed to get there? In Destiny 2, after the Last Wish raid was beaten, Riven let out a curse on the, at the time, brand new destination, the Dreaming City, changing the whole appearance and adding the activities we went over in the previous sections. One feature of this was that it was on a 3-week cycle called the Curse, with the 3rd week being Curse Week. This week was the only time the Shattered Throne dungeon was available, limiting Destiny's only dungeon to that week. Another activity and the place players were convinced the final wish was also only found during Curse Week. After beating enough of the brand new public activity Blind Well, you were allowed to offer the Oracle something of use. However, on Curse Week, Mara Sov allowed the player into a brand new location, her throne room deep in space. This is important because just like Wish 10, This meant there were certain parameters to get to the wish, and since the area was brand new at the time, who knew what could be out there? You may know where this ends though. No wish here at all, only a beautiful view and a random piece of lore. One week, on December 18th, 2018, in the throne room of Mara Sov, a cutscene played where the main antagonist of the Forsaken story was revived, prompting players to examine the room like a forensics team looking for anything in the cutscene and around the game. But once again, nothing. On July 11, 2019, during a Bungie livestream for charity at a convention named GuardianCon, the community manager for the game, Deej, was asked whether, quote, Wish 15 is real or is it just a troll? Deej responded with this: can't it be both? This may sound reminiscent of Last Exit, where Derek Carroll made a claim somewhat sarcastically about the code's secret.
Like you best.
Have they broken games? Have they broken the code in Last Exit yet?
What?
Hope for the 15th wish was already dwindling day by day, with no signs it was ever going to happen. And honestly, this may have sparked a little excitement, but it didn't really help. With the whole game's world being scanned every new season, every new cutscene, every new thing, this wish was starting to become the next meme in internet culture, like Half-Life 3. All speculation with no payoff. Tons of videos that claim the wish was found. New signs, new places, ways to unlock the wish, theories of where the wish could be, all were either lies for views or were wishful thinking. Another theory that started making waves was that the 15th wish would unlock the doors in Last Wish's courtyard to a new area. Something I would love to personally see, but players that have made their way out of bounds have found no geometry past these walls, so the odds of that happening are also very unlikely. Player ambition and speculation fills the hunt, so let's lay out the scenario then. Everything has proven to not be true. Every trailer that's scanned, every new season of content, nothing is really new. Even Deej went on the record and trolled the player base in a way. But what if the hunt had already been here? One might think, why wouldn't you try to brute force the wish into the wall? I mean, if you think about it, there's 20 plates with 16 different symbols per plate, including a blank spot, so 17 total options per plate. So someone must eventually get lucky if everyone tried a different combination, right? Well, by the laws of math magic, you could be right, but seeing as how the files for the wish weren't in the game and the community's dwindling interest, plus the absurd numbers, you're also very wrong, as Reddit user Nexi801 pointed out. Quote,
you go back to the beginning of time with your super fast PC running that sweet, sweet Destiny 2, and you're able to enter a unique code every single second. Surely this will take no time. So you start entering codes every second since the Big Bang. That's what you do. And then you get to today. You think, let me check my progress bar and see how much of the list I've done. You check the list, and it says 0.0000001%. No, it's not broken. The amount of possibilities, the amount of possible combinations and wishes that you have, that number is just absurdly large. How large exactly? 4 septillion, 64 sextillion, 231 quintillion, 406 quadrillion, 647 trillion, 572 billion, 522 million, 401,000. Evan, did you just get me to voice over this just to say numbers? But yes, that's the exact number of wishes you can make using the wall. Now, if we were generous and we said that every single second you would be able to enter a new wish, then we're looking at this many years. It's this many years, all right? I'm not gonna say this.
If brute forcing didn't work and every part of the game may have been searched, what about a part that isn't necessarily a game at all? One place players don't typically look is in the game's lore. Not a place, but a book. If you are like me, you may think these books would just consist of background information and stories. You would be right up until the Niobe Labs puzzle, which we have already covered from another video. In short, with this puzzle, the developer used lore combined with timing and precise first-person shooter mechanics to accomplish a once-in-a-lifetime event. So lore may have been outside of the question previously, but with the last place to look and the Niobe Labs puzzle providing evidence that the game's lore was something more enticing, you can't really blame the game's community for searching deeper. Inside of Destiny 2, there's a lore book from the point of view of a character named Savathun. You may or may not be familiar with that name if you follow the Destiny franchise. Savathun is responsible for the whole storyline of Forsaken as we know it, but for the sake of this video, I will just go over the parts we need to know. In the book, Truth to Power, what we can assume to be the 15th wish is directly mentioned. I will let you do the research on the rest of the characters, but this book is written by Savathun herself. Quote,
"When you killed Riven, she granted your wish to see the city made safe. But as all wish granters do, she perverted that wish, opening the dreaming city to Dulinkaru,
the dungeon's final boss.
When you defeated Dulinkaru, in turn, I reset the entire dreaming city to keep her permanently occupied battling you. You must use these loops to find a way to permanently destroy her. Achieve light level 999 and defeat Dulinkaru in a one-person fireteam to unlock the true ending of the dreaming city."
This meant absolutely nothing at the time for Destiny 2. The highest level at the end of Forsaken a player could achieve was power level 600. Then by the end of the full year of content in summer of 2019, it was 750. So by that model, it would be a long time before power level 999 could be possible. That was until Bungie gave their player base a utility item called the Artifact, and with this item, XP could help someone achieve that level for grinding very, very hard. This was the ultimate race and challenge for the players Zupadupa and Bagel4K, who both grinded XP from bounties to reach this level just for this challenge alone. Gear was capped to 950 power at the release of Destiny 2's Shadowkeep, but with the help of XP, a player could hypothetically reach 999 power through the Artifact's +1 leveling system. Not only that, but a known and very popular third-party website named LightGG had added the 15th wish to the API of the site, meaning that the file of the 15th wish was now placed in the game. These were the circumstances aligning, and now Truth to Power went from a small lore tab, released in Forsaken when the max level that could be reached was 600, to now a year later, a player reaching power level 999. Bagel4K, with no help at all except thousands of players watching and the streamer glad in his ear, was now about to be a part of gaming history. With every single major gaming outlet covering the story, every YouTuber wanting to tell people of the story, this was about to be Destiny 2's big moment again. 1 year after the curse was placed, the next year it should fall. The API in the game, the man who would break the curse of the Dreaming City and finally end the story of Forsaken once and for all. Nothing happened. Not only did nothing happen, but how could this be? When reading books, we are often taught one very strong lesson: point of view through narration. This book was written from the point of view of the character Savathun, a book of lies. I don't think the developer ever intended for this small writing in a lore book to gain this much traction, but Bungie sort of apologized for their mistake.
To our friend Bagel 4K, this is another gift. You've spent countless hours defeating the enemies of the last city, steadily increasing your power to challenge the darkness that is consuming the Dreaming City. Your strength is my strength. We've been watching alongside the community as you've come to the doorstep of being the first Guardian in Destiny history to have a 4-digit power level. Your victory is my victory. We are humbled by your dedication, and while this may not have broken the curse, we can say without question that you have become legend.
My jaws are wide and I am waiting.
Thank you for playing, and we can't wait to see how high you climb each season.
The trail was now sort of cold, but not fully frozen. I mean, yes, the wish still hadn't been found, but the wish being in the API meant there was still hope, and so the search continued over and over again like the year before. One year later, after countless videos expressing new searches for the wish, only a season taking place in the Dreaming City gave hope that the wish may have been found. Activities in the Dreaming City, a war against Savathun's Sister of War named Xivu Arath, and one very peculiar aspect of the season. You see, the activities may have been present, but inside of Last Wish, something new was present. A familiar tone for longtime players of Destiny, and one that wasn't supposed to return until summer 2021. The Oracle sound from the Vault of Glass raid was here for some reason. This sparked a ton of speculation and hype again for the 15th Wish. I mean, can you really blame the players? A raid that hasn't been relevant for 2 years now has sounds of another raid. The Wish is in the game's API, and the season's focus is back on the Witch Queen. Something had to be going on, but just like every story so far, it was to no avail. The developer did have a lot of issues with bugs that season after all, so this unfortunately turned out to be just a sound bug. But why would this even be here or in the game at all this early? That's something I will leave up to you to decide. You remember when I said there was hope in the hunt? Well, how about the game's community going from in-game lore that gives them instruction to making their own insane theories? Meet Wish 15 in 2020 Real Schizo Hours. This post, which gained a lot of traction on December 10th of 2020, made by Reddit user Exploding Hippo 2016, goes into vast detail about the Wish's identity and outlines a way to narrow down the code. Hippo started to look at things in a much more investigative manner, using evidence from an item Destiny players received if they participated in the game's community event, the Festival of the Lost. This item, the Ascendant Lens, has zero use in the game's current state, so Hippo did what this community tends to do, look very deep into this item. Quote, "Two main theories that I've had around Wish 15. If it exists, it is not a wish plate texture, so therefore it must be displayed through some other way or as code and data we have already. The first theory Hippo came up with deals with the first mission in the Dreaming City, where players fight this captain and work their way up to the top of the Oracle Room. Visual changes, particle effects, sound effects being different, and these mats not allowing the exotic 1000 voices to work at all in the room. Hippo's theory was that if these mats were not to allow weapons to work on it, maybe then they could reveal something of use for the 15th Wish. However, I will be the voice of reason here and provide supporting evidence as to why this is probably not going to be the solution for the 15th Wish. It's simple to me. These could be missing textures on the mats, similar to how places in the game allow the player to walk on them but have projectiles move through them. For the lighting, this could be the case of Bungie updating their engine for lighting features, and this is a side effect bug or a missing spot of that process. Visual and audio bugs, as previously discussed with the oracles being found, are pretty commonplace for most games, and especially with Destiny 2 and this most recent year. The next theory Hippo goes on to write about is much more out there than the first, and with how long this video is already, I will keep it as simple as can be. This is called the Time Gate and Wish Triplets theory. Hippo goes on to talk about how lore doesn't add up to some of the wishes, how color direction of wishes may be signaling the key to the 15th wish after all, how the wall of wishes can resemble a clock with different points of time on there, dictating direction as well, relaying the Ascendant lens to the point of dialogue about the raid's second boss, the points where the Anciple appears in different places of the game. These charts that I can only pretend to understand, seriously, what the fuck. While I do appreciate how far a community can go on theories, I don't think aiming down sights with the raid weapons on banners in the raid is going to get us anywhere closer to the 15th wish. But, like Niobe Labs had, maybe this is a solution. I think one thing stood out to me though. That was the point of the Ascendant lens and the Time Gate theory. To me, both of these have two meanings. While I don't believe the Time Gate theory has anything to do with wishes lining up with the lore of the game, I do believe it has to do with lining up with business. So let me conclude, then we talk about that some more. Here we are, in present day. With the story not quite ended and the final wish, the wish to end the curse in the Dreaming City, still somewhere out there. This hunt that has been going on for years, still with new theories being made every day and new and wackier conspiracies being formed, seems like it will never come to fruition. So, I have a couple theories as to where the final wish is. The first is that the last wish will come before the Witch Queen DLC as a live event for Destiny 2 to kick off a major year of content. After all, the Witch Queen, or Savathun's story, is the next place the developer intends to go, and would make sense finally ending the Dreaming City story. Evidence of this is in the fact that Bungie is no stranger to live events, and that this storyline could take place in a future season, since the developer also has seasonal models. The second theory is one that has been mentioned a ton of times in this video. Hidden in plain sight, the 15th wish, the one final wish, could just be the raid's name, Last Wish. I mean, think about it. Riven did unleash a curse as her final wish, and we are missing one. So what if Wish 15 was truly in front of us the whole time, and Deej's comment of, "Can't it be both?" was meant to be taken this way? I do think this was the original goal of the Wish Hunt, having players find 14 and then realizing that the last wish, the 15th wish, was the same name of the raid the whole time. Would have been a nice payoff for those who pay close attention to detail. However, I think with all that has been said and how far the game's community has gone, how much attention there is to this unsolved mystery, and how much players of Bungie's game are looking for that payoff, the course will be shifted around that. Think about it like this. If you have something that has garnered this much attention, whether it was your intention for it to or not, people want the closure of knowing. Not saying a word about it may have been good for a bit, but Deej making the joke may have had more consequences than thought, negative and positive. So yes, while I do think it was originally meant for the 15th wish to be the name of the raid, I also think that Bungie will eventually make the final wish come to life in some way in the future. I will be there for that day. Thank you to everyone who made it this far, and if you want me to cover another Unsolved Mystery, Destiny or not, please let me know. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone.
572,522,401,000. And are you tired of me saying numbers yet? It is Evan. Did you just get me to voice over this just to say numbers? Really? But yes, that's the exact number of wishes you can make using the wall. Now, if we were generous and we said that every single second you would be able to enter a new wish, then we're looking at this many years. It's this many years, all right? I'm not gonna say this number. I don't care. I don't care what you want. I don't care. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's a chance.
And then music rise. So like, oh, like, you know, like crazy rise in music, and then a sudden fall. So like, just like crazy, like, oh, and then you can cut it off. Oh, like kind of like rising church music, and then fade out, and a black screen with commentary. So I don't know, black screen with commentary. I don't know what that's for, but whatever, if that makes sense, just yeah.
Since Wish 3 was found in the cutscene, I believe that Wish 15 also has to be found somewhere out of game or is still time gated.